Thank you for joining us today. My name is Omar Zaafrani. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to be part of this great function. I'd like to first start by thanking the Tunisian government for bringing, not just great minds, but also really great professionals from, multiple different parts of industries, bringing, entrepreneurs to senior executives to advisors. I also want to thank TTU for organizing and really putting together this agenda. Of course, I have to thank Najib Zaafrani, my father, and also Nabil and everybody else who has helped pull this together. I will not be able to stay for the entire panel because due to timing, I have to head out to a meeting. But what I'll do is I'm going to quickly introduce the session, and then I'll hand over to someone who's better than me at this, which is my father, and then I will excuse myself. So today's this session is about sustainability and finance. I'm a sustainability professional, amongst other things. This is a topic that's very dear to me. It's also a very complex topic across different markets, and I think we'll spend some time to talk about that. We have with us, and I'll let everybody introduce themselves because everybody's better at introducing themselves than I am, but effectively we're looking at topics ranging from carbon markets and nature-based projects to basically borderless finance and remittances and banking the unbanked from a variety of topics, as well as ESG and the SDGs across different markets. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to perhaps allow for everybody to introduce themselves, and then we'll start with the first presentation. The format of this session this afternoon, given the diverse set of topics, is to go through the presentations and open the floor to Q&A. Okay. So I'll hand over now to Najib, my father, and also let Nihel begin by introducing herself. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, please.
I will introduce myself. So I'm Dr. Nihel Chabrak. So I come from academia. Actually, I spent about 25 years in academia as a assistant associate and professor, and then I was the CEO of the UAE Science and Innovation Park. So I worked a lot with entrepreneurs, with inventors on commercialization, on tech transfer, etc. And then I was also the lead of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor for the UAE for several years. And then finally, I was the executive director of the UAE Pavilion at Expo 2020, where we presented a project which is called the University of the Future, which is a university that graduates job creators instead of job seekers. And then I decided to shift, a major shift in my career, to join a company which is called AirImpact. And today, actually, I'm going to talk about an initiative that we are launching at COP28. And throughout the presentation, I will explain also what AirImpact is doing.
So you start the presentation, okay, and then we move.
So there is a video, actually, that is... Okay. Can we play the video? So you can stop it here. You can move to it. So, so yeah, it's called the Great Green Action, and the reason, or let's say, what is the rationale behind this? So first, actually, we are noticing that there are so many announcements, there are so many pledges, there are so many promises, but there is little action. And actually, we want to be in action and transactions. Also, one of the issues when we talk about carbon markets, and everyone now actually is talking about the carbon market, is that there is a big challenge in differentiating good projects from bad projects. So how actually to identify, how to find out these good projects. And of course, actually, as a consequence, these good projects find difficulty to raise funds and to support the action. So let me start why actually we talk about forest. Forest is life. And actually, when we talk about climate action, a lot of people don't understand the link between forests and climate. So let me give you a few figures, okay? If deforestation was a country, it would rank third after the US and China as a cause for the emissions. That's the first fact. The second fact is that every decade, Africa is losing forests the size of Germany, which is huge. And these are natural sinks, carbon sinks, okay? So it's true that it's important to reduce emissions, but it's also important to remove the emissions that we have already there. So it's not only about, okay, working on like improving technologies and improving like reducing or avoiding emissions. It's also about removing the emissions. And for that, actually, we need the carbon sinks, we need sequestrations, and we need those natural solutions, and forest is important. The other reason why also it's important, because everyone now is talking about climate, okay? But guess what? The next challenge is biodiversity. We are on the verge of the 6th mass extinction era. We are talking about, scientists are talking about this. Since the 1970s, the wildlife reduced by 60%, okay? And this is the first mass extinction era that is due to human beings. All the other mass extinction era happened because of other factors, weather or, something like an accident that happened on Earth, but this is the first time a species that is us, which is dominating and determining actually the life of other species, okay? And it's serious. And both are interrelated. So that's why actually we have this Great Green Action, which is a collective action to bring African forests back. So we are actually collectively projects, technology companies, buyers, investors, working together on bringing these forests back. And of course, actually, how do we do that? So we use the voluntary carbon market as an important mechanism for that. And let me just give you very, like I'm not going to talk technical here. So why do we have deforestation? It's because people are cutting trees. And why communities are cutting trees is because just they don't have any other solution to survive, because cutting trees brings them income. Protecting trees does not bring them any income. So if you give them the incentive to, bring forests back, to protect forests, then actually you can ensure that you will keep those forests. And that's why actually we use the voluntary carbon market to channel the funds through these carbon projects to communities, okay? But of course, actually, one important thing here is to ensure, because when we talk about these projects, like these nature-based projects, we talk about 30, 40 years project. So these projects' life is more than my life or any maybe company life. So you need to ensure a long-term mechanism, actually, so that actually these communities will continue receiving the money all, the life of the project. Because if you stop, they will cut the trees. And so we don't have this permanence condition, which is very important in these solutions. So actually we came up with all these mechanisms to help those nature-based projects. First, prove the impact, show actually that they are removing carbon, they are protecting biodiversity, they are creating jobs and income for communities, creating a financial mechanism which is actually going to guarantee the long-term payment for communities, but also reducing the risk for investors and buyers. And of course, actually, if you ask me who are the buyers, like all companies. Literally, for example, I'm giving you the example of Apple. Apple, they have made net zero commitment for 2030. Apple can do, can reduce emissions, 80% of their emissions through their value chain, and 20% is through offsetting. And they choose nature-based solutions for that, okay? So actually, Apple would like to invest in projects, but good projects, projects that are impactful. And of course, they want to be sure that it's going to succeed. And that's why actually de-risking is very important here. That's it. I mean, I'm keeping it very simple. I'm happy to receive.
Dr. Nihel, I'm going to ask you a question and then we move to the next speaker. And later on, we'll ask the audience if they have questions for any one of you. So the question I have for you is that Africa represents a multi-billion dollar carbon market by 2030. What policy frameworks should countries focus on to help attract investors, e.g. Article 6?
So typically, of course, actually, the role actually of countries, governments, policies is very important. And actually, we can see already some of the, some problems in terms of, implementation of Article 6.2 or 6.4, and then actually how to work between the 6.2, 6.4, and all these projects. Like, I think there is, when we talk about 6.2, for example, if I focus just on 6.2, so the approach is top-down, okay? While actually these projects can succeed only when it comes from the bottom up. Because at the end of the day, it happens at the level of communities with the projects, but of course, actually the policies should facilitate and should bring, you know, the protection for investors, the guarantees for the communities, for the projects. So the whole environment that is going to enable somehow, you know, these projects to succeed. And so that a good governance and a good coordination is very important to have these right policies in place and to, you know, to bridge, you know, 6.2, for example, with all these projects that are happening on the ground.
Okay, thank you. So can I ask Mr. Omar to introduce himself first to the audience? And then we go through your presentation and I will ask you a question.
I think it's Monaem. It's Monaem, go the next one.
Monaem, the next one?
Monaem? It's fine, okay.
It's fine.
Sure. Can you say a few things to introduce yourself?
Yes, I will. My name is Monaem Lellahom. I've been in the industry for about 18 years. So you can imagine me 18 years ago, 20 years old, roaming around trying to sell sustainability and ESG in the region. I was like a zombie trying to pitch for sustainability and nobody could understand what I'm saying. So I lead a company called Sustainable Square, which was in the industry for about 12 years, advisory services in this field. Today, it's not about Sustainable Square, it's not about me, but it's about how do we accelerate the uptake of the Sustainable Development Goals. As a humanity, we failed miserably to attend or to attain the MDGs back in 2015. And the call for the SDGs was to do not leave anyone left behind by 2030. So I'm gonna tell you, how can we accelerate the uptake of the SDGs? I'm not gonna be pessimistic. I'm not gonna be optimistic either, but I'm gonna be realistic as much as possible to tell you, are we capable as a humanity globally to achieve the SDGs or no? And what do we need to do in order to achieve that? Is it working?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, so it's not about sustainable spirits, it's not about my portfolio. So I think globally we understand the urgency of climate change. I don't need to go through that. We all have seen what happened. You know, globally we have about 9 tipping points as a planet. We've crossed 6 out of the 9 tipping points. Basically, we are in the race today to cross the remaining 4. And if we achieve 9 tipping points, we will collapse as a humanity. And I'm not joking here. And climate change and carbon emission are just one of the tipping points. Just one. We focus on talking about carbon and climate change, while there are other tipping points that we just started discussing about them in COPE globally. You all understand what is happening around this. You know, last summer it was the hottest. In Tunisia, we have 65 million olive trees. This is the first year we started watering them. 65 million of olive trees. This is the first year we started watering them. We've never watered them before. So just to go through some data, my company has run the first ESG study in the Middle East in partnership with First Abu Dhabi Bank and the Middle East Investor Relations Association. When we asked company, what do we need to do in order to accelerate the uptake of sustainability and in order to accelerate the uptake of transition towards net zero, 2 emerging factors have emerged. First, financing. Second, technology, and technology needs financing. So basically, everyone is struggling with financing. Everyone is struggling with allocation of capital and investment. And this is the core towards acceleration for the transition globally. So globally, the UN has estimated that we need about $2.5 trillion, $2.5 trillion in a yearly base in order to achieve the SDGs by 2030. Achieving the SDGs means no one is left behind, means we save this world, means we save the world of the next generation. $2.5 trillion was estimated by the UN. Now, the IMF, International Monetary Fund, has estimated that we need about $0.5 trillion on a yearly base in emerging markets, while in the developing world, we need about $2.1 trillion in order to achieve the SDGs by 2030. What happened? If before the COVID, we need about $2.5 trillion, the resources of the private sector has shrunk by about $1 trillion during the COVID. And then we had other issues and other global problems that are estimated about $700 trillion. So if we bought before the COVID, we needed about $2.5 trillion. After the COVID, we need about $4.2 trillion on a yearly basis in order to achieve the SDGs. But guess what? Globally, the global finance system is estimated at $470 trillion. Do you know how much money we need in order to save this world? 1.1% of all of it. 1.1% of all the finance that is existing in this world in order to save this world and the world of the next generation. We are failing miserably as a humanity to allocate 1.1% of our resources, financial resources, to save this world. That's how incapable we are globally. So, globally, we have the financial assets that are existing in this world are more than enough in order to achieve the SDGs. Probably a reflection for us to think why zakat was created, 2% of our money. Probably if we had zakat and everybody's working or paying zakat around the world, we could have saved the world. A reflection. So what shift do we need today? We need to allocate more resources, more financial assets, more investment towards the SDGs. When the SDGs were created, we thought that we're going to need to support them. We don't want you to support the SDGs. We want you to allocate financing and invest in the SDGs. These are $12 trillion of business opportunities, $12 trillion of business opportunities that you can make money, gain profit, and impact the world at the same time. That's the mutual value or the creation of mutual value approach that we are talking about, and we want the private sector to transition towards that. So, what shift do we need today? We need to stop thinking that the SDGs are an ethical imperative. We are not here trying to do good. We don't want you to do good. We want you to invest, to allocate capital, make money from this, and impact the world at the same time. As simple as that. We need to start thinking and assessing all the black boxes that are still fueling and allocating financing and money and investment towards the inefficiency and the inequality around the world, which is creating a global issue in the assessment. And that's what we've discovered, a couple of months ago. Morningstar has discovered that 1,500 funds that were labeled as ESG funds are all fake. They were all fake. And the assessment is still going, by the way. We're going to discover more ESG funds that are fake. And this is because the investment community has raced to put the etiquette or the label of ESG under each fund so they can make money. So we feel that we are putting more money into this system, but the life of people are not changing. And this is exactly the same issue that we're facing when it comes to the SDGs assessment. So what I did here, I've picked 6 entities in the financial system. What do we expect from them to do? And how can the regulators support them? I'm going to start with the asset managers. The asset managers are $91 trillion of business under the asset management companies. What do you want them to do? We want to integrate ESG and climate change and sustainability imperative in the assessment, in the investment. We need to allocate more fund and educate the fund managers on how to direct investment and capital towards climate change and sustainability. Second, the insurance industry. $32.9 trillion of asset management under the insurance industry. Now, the business case of ESG and sustainability and climate change in the insurance industry is much more apparent than it used to be before. The less accidents in the road, the safer the roads, less claims, they make more money. The healthier the environment, less claims, they make more money. The healthier the community, less claims, they make more money. So it's in their benefit to transition towards climate change and sustainability and start embedding ESG imperatives and considerations in repairs and claims and underwritings and all of the products and the insurance. The pension funds or the sovereign funds, we need governments today to put their pledges into operational through their pension funds and sovereign funds, and to integrate investment and allocate capital towards investment. And I can go on with the investment banks, with the impact-driven businesses and philanthropic organizations. Now, what is more important than net zero to me? The race to zero. The campaign for race to zero. Do you know why it's more important than net zero? Because it forces you to slash your emission by 2030. We need acceleration. We need to accelerate the uptake of this transition. Otherwise, we're going to fail to keep the 1.5 degree alive. Now, this is my last slide. This is how much money we need in specific SDGs in order to save this world. Education. We need about $39 billion on a yearly basis to save education and to provide quality education for all. We need about $114 billion in order to provide water and sanitation for all. We need about $274 billion to provide health and nutrition for all. And all the SDGs around climate change, environment, life on sea, and all of that, we need about $3.5 trillion on a yearly basis to tackle these SDGs. This is where we are channeling our money. The global market for sugar, $73 billion. The global market for cosmetics, $463 billion. The global market for ice cream, $95 billion. The global market for gambling, $876 billion. The global market for adults entertainment, $44.9 billion. The global market for tobacco, $937 billion. And see this, defense, $4 trillion. And this is why the SDG number 17 is about peace. Peace is super important for the transition in climate change and sustainability. Thank you.
Just keep it. I'm going to ask you a question, Mr. Monaem. Do you believe this? Do you believe the same set of disclosure regulations or universal regulation should be applied across all markets, or be shaped based on market context, and why?
I think we definitely have to localize whatever global framework and standards for sustainability we have set globally. The indicators that are being tracked globally, they cannot be tracked locally because we conduct the context, and the context dictates on what are the key metrics that you have to disclose on when it comes to sustainability. For example, disclosure or the definition of diversity at the workplace in Europe and North America is totally different than in the Middle East here. So we have to really localize this kind of data metrics in order to make sure that companies are really focusing on what matters the most to their local stakeholders, but not just global operators.
But you don't see the opportunity being independent as a consultant and advisor to influence in showing the good side of it, to move into being more transparent and to be at the level of the other parts of the world.
I think when it comes to transparency here, the jurisdictions, for example, in the Middle East and North Africa, they've picked in the regulation when it comes to ESG disclosure and reporting. So we're seeing more and more stock markets are mandating ESG disclosure and reporting for the listed companies. They started in the Middle East and moving slowly, gradually towards North Africa. So these kind of disclosures and policies and jurisdictions, they're pushing listed companies in order to start disclosing on their ESG metrics. In UAE in particular, for example, they've reached 99% compliance of listed companies are disclosing on their ESG and sustainability, and then we are expecting the other markets to pick up on that.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Mr. Monaem. So the next to make sure is Mr. Omar.
Yes, it's me.
Okay, so if you say a few words about yourself,
yes,
and then we listen to you.
I feel energized after you, so thank you for that. So I'm Omar Guizani. I'm currently in finance, but actually I was in cryptocurrencies for over 8 years, involved in the sector. And also I used to own a hardware company in Tunisia that experiments in robotics. And maybe if you went to Geek Cafe in Tunisia, in Gamart, you know the tactile table. That's what I founded with my co-founder in Tunisia. So today I'm going to talk about borderless finance. And today, so I'm the CEO and co-founder of Slide. I'm going to be talking about borderless finance and its impact on our planet. So, I'm very happy, actually, and humbled by the opportunity to address this gathering today. I stand before you not just as a fintech CEO, but as a global citizen. And following on what you said, we are definitely in a crucial point in our planet's history. We are, in my point of view at least, we're at a place where the intersection of finance and, the environmental stewardship has never been so critical. And, hopefully I'm going to have the honor to share a vision, one of where finance is actually able to go beyond its traditional role, but actually become a catalyst in this planetary recovery, let's say. And so I'm going to try and let you embark with me in discovering how sustainability and finance can go hand in hand to, towards a greener, brighter future. But first, let us, I don't know if I click on the right one. Which one is it? The first one?
Down. Second.
There you go.
Second one down.
On that. There you go. Thank you. So first, let us reflect on our financial history. Actually, so in the not so distant past, our financial systems were actually bound by geographical boundaries. We went from the barter trade system, where if you wanted my oranges and you only had a goat, and I didn't want of your goat, well, making an exchange is actually going to be difficult, if possible at all the way up to modern digital transactions, where you could pay me in euros, dollars, bitcoins, Ethereum, you name it, as long as I accept it as a means of payment. So despite the fact that limits of an old system are still existing, well, the world of payment is actually inevitably changing and moving forward. Just like the internet opened up a new world of endless connectivity and digital currencies ushered in a new kind of financial freedom, today we are at the cusp of a new borderless financial world that knows no limitations, no borders. Yet, we are far from having completed our financial evolution, especially for the reasons you mentioned actually earlier. And, as we face these unprecedented environmental challenges, it has become even more important for our financial systems to align not just with profits, but also with our planet's needs and interests. And so today we are in this era where financial innovation is actually aligning and can and must align actually with ecological sustainability. So what is borderless finance per se? Borderless finance actually represents a fundamental shift in the way our financial systems operate. It's a concept that transcends geographical boundaries, enabling individuals and businesses not only to access financial services everywhere, anywhere, but also to conduct financial transactions across the globe in a seamless way. So in a borderless financial world, traditional limitations like intermediaries, like geographical borders, currency conversion barriers are actually becoming more and more irrelevant. On the contrary, digital connectivity is actually becoming the norm, and instant access to financial resources is actually fundamentally changing the way we think about and manage our finances. So actually, borderless finance has a potential to contribute to environmental impacts in many multiple positive ways. And I have to get used to that. And, it helps eliminate intermediaries. It cuts, reduces actually frictions when it comes to international cross-border transactions, and it helps streamline processes and minimize resource consumption. So this, in a borderless financial system, well, basically, we don't, how to say it? So we streamline this. So we don't actually go for okay, sorry, I'm gonna, yeah, streamline processes and minimize resource consumption. So yeah, what I was going to say is that, in a borderless financial system without intermediaries, we are able to actually, make transactions more efficient and actually lower environmental footprint, and definitely be able to environmentally positively impact our environment in a better way. When you look at, okay, I'm gonna skip. Another way of how borderless finance is actually positively impacting our society, our economy, is actually by allowing people, enabling them to allocate funds towards positively or environmentally responsible projects or companies. And so as Monaem was saying earlier, people can then allocate their funds to environmentally responsible projects, and this redirection of capital can actually enable initiatives like renewable energy, conservation efforts, or green technology development, for example. So when we look at these contributions, the potential of borderless finance is actually immense. And it can happen in multiple ways, and I see three main ways actually for it to happen. First, it can facilitate and enable the rapid dissemination of sustainable financial products and services across the globe, allow, as I was saying earlier, so to allocate the funds to the right projects that can help the environment actually recover from the harm we have been doing. Then, and that's an important point, it can facilitate financial inclusion, especially for people that are underserved today and people that are living in remote areas or actually living in environmentally vulnerable areas, and knowing that those ones are the ones that are going to be most affected by the environmental issues that we are facing right now. Just like Nihel was saying earlier, if we don't give them a way to actually generate money in an environmentally responsible way, well, basically they cannot actually go away from detrimental activities, environmentally detrimental activities. And this is a very important point because we cannot talk about global justice or climate justice without social justice. We cannot talk about sustainability when people actually live in misery. And we can definitely not talk about global sustainability if there is no global respect of human rights and definitely of SDGs. So the last point is that borderless finance also fosters greater transparency and accountability when it comes to the financial system, by making it easier to track and report, the way financial institutions, but also all institutions in that way, are using and impacting the environment in their financial activities. So this empowers consumers, regulators, but also institutions themselves in taking action and being able to, take informed decisions towards sustainability. So going from this, I want to share an example with you of how this vision can actually become a reality. So it's an example or something that is deeply personal to me and my team, something we've developed over the last years, and it's called Slide. So Slide is, it's not just a name, it's a vision. It's a vision to change the way people manage their money and handle their finances. Slide was born from my personal frustration as a foreign student in France back in, 15 years ago. But things have not moved so far, actually, in 15 years. That's what's funny. And so as any foreign student, I was waiting for my parents' allowance. And I was living what I used to call the frustrating ceremony of waiting this bank transfer to arrive. It would take, days, sometimes weeks. One time I even had to fast 2 days waiting for this transfer to arrive. And it would always incur high costs, and very actually frustrating experience. So going from that and knowing that many people are living the same experience, we thought, okay, we can do things better. So Slide today is a digital bank and offering services, designed specifically to offer services for North Africans, wherever they are in the world. We provide financial services, but mainly we focus on facilitating money transfers between North Africa and Europe. So we do it in both ways, and we do it for a fraction of the cost. Before digging actually deeper into that, I want to get back to international money transfers and how they work today. When you look at a transfer, I didn't do this animation. When you look at a transfer actually and how it works, in a traditional way. So here it's written initiating banks. So the moderator actually ruined my presentation, by the way. So this was it was supposed to be like that. So the issuing bank, this is what's written here. Which is your bank, if you send €1,000 transfer, would get actually 3 to 6% margin on the exchange rate to start with. Then, if they would get at least actually 20 to 50 euro fee for foreign payment, if there's an intermediary involved, which is often the case for less common transfer route, they would also get a fee on that. And so we are already at least 70 euros fees for €1,000, simple €1,000 transfer. on top of that, the receiving, so the recipient would also get charged 20 euros by the receiving bank. So do you think that's fair? I don't think so. We didn't think so as well. Is that actually environmentally sustainable? It is not. Because when you look at the chain of operations, actually each one of them is not only incurred higher costs, but also each of them is actually adding energy consumption and adding higher carbon footprint, which is due to all these intermediaries involved. Whereas in borderless finance, you would cut off all these intermediaries and allow actually for an efficient and environmentally friendly system to rise from that. So in slide, we thought, okay, we can do things better. Why not actually take things with a different approach? Since we have money transfers coming from all directions, why not do a platform where we match opposing money transfers, cutting all intermediaries and slashing costs to a minimum? So that's exactly what we did. We've built a unique marketplace based on our experience on peer-to-peer networks and decentralized systems, so in cryptocurrencies, where basically we transform 2 cross-border transactions to 2 local ones instead. This would allow us to cut all intermediaries / costs like to really very low fees, and allow people actually to be able to send money as they want. So if we take an example, actually, we are today with slide normalizing international money transfers by making it reachable for everyone. So you would put 1,000 euros, the same 1,000 euro you put before, your recipient would get 990 euros. And so only 1%, 0.6 to 1% fee. And all of that would happen in about 24 hours, according to a last pilot we made. So slide is not actually just our creation, but it's actually one of our passions and our mission. We don't want to just provide a service. We want to show how a borderless financial world or system can actually work in the future. It's not just about cost efficiency. When you look at it on the environmental level, it's about also environmental responsibility and making things more efficient, not just in a profit-wise, but also in environmentally wise point of view. So, which leads me to one of my favorite subjects, cryptocurrencies. So, often misunderstood, cryptocurrencies were very heavily criticized actually for their mining processes or what we call mining. But when we look at it, it's not actually a fixed narrative. Mining is actually the complex, let's say, resolution of mathematical puzzles to allow us to validate and record transactions on the blockchain. So this requires a lot of computational power, which in turn requires a lot of energy, which of course has a big carbon footprint. But this is where many of us actually get lost. Well, I don't know who was saying that, I think it's Mr. Amir Ben Ghasem was talking about that. What's important is not the amount of energy, but actually the type of energy you are using. So if you are using renewable energy, which is actually the case for the biggest mining facilities that are located in Iceland, knowing that Iceland, I think, has like 99.9% of renewable energy, powering actually their country. Well, I believe it's no problem and no issue, to be actually working towards changing the financial system towards a more sustainable one, instead of keeping the old bank, infrastructure working as it is right now. And actually, when we look at cryptos, it has multiple ways to improve and actually to achieve the environmental issues, positively impact the environmental issues we are trying to tackle today. First of all, it achieves financial inclusion. Like borderless finance, actually, it can even get to a better place than traditional finance, because basically all you need is access to the internet, and you can have access to the best, most global, most advanced financial services at your fingertips. After that, it also allows the development of eco-conscious, decentralized applications. And thankfully, I came after Nihel, so basically she explained what a decentralized application is and what users it can have. And finally, my preferred attribute is actually it has the potential to showcase or to shift, actually to create a paradigm shift in how our financial system and economy actually functions. And let me try and develop this, to finish. There's a French economist and crypto specialist in the name of Alexandre Stachenko. And so this guy says that, cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin that have a limited supply have the power to actually change the way our economies work because they are able to build a sustainable, create a sustainable actually system in the financial world. And let me explain how. So most of you would have probably heard of the saying that money sleeping is actually money lost. You know, due to inflation, that's actually a true story. Well, the smartest of us would actually save it, or will actually invest their money, you know, to make it grow. While most of us would actually just spend their money. And so we are in this frenetic consumerist, you know, society where you have to buy things all the time. Even if you earn more, you would buy more. You would not maybe invest, but you are always buying more. And this is because actually our financial system is made in a debt, let's say, debt-driven way that actually drives you into buying instead of keeping your assets where they are. And when you have something like Bitcoin that is limited in supply, well, you know, like anything that is scarce, well, it increases in value instead of actually lowering its value if, of course, people see in it a way to use it, see in it, you know, a definitive value, let's say, in the economic sphere. And the best comparison is actually gold towards that. And so if everyone at some point becomes mainstream to use Bitcoin, well, we could argue that, you know, in a way, we can actually become, create this paradigm shift, economical shift, that allows people to actually not only spend, but also save their money and invest it eventually. So just maybe to finish, I have written a couple of words because, you know, I didn't want to finish in a bad way, but basically the future of borderless finance, you know, as we've seen, is actually a canvas of limitless potential. You can do many things inside it. It's a future where financial systems not only empower sustainable growth, but where environmental consciousness is embedded in every transaction, and this is how it should be. This future is not a distant dream, it's actually within our grasp, and it requires collaboration, a synergy between the financial system and also the environmental sector, and, you know, players that know what they are doing. And together we can actually reshape this financial landscape to support our planet's health. So as we conclude, let's just remember that borderless finance is more than just a technological advancement. It's a beacon of hope. It's a way to embrace innovation, to challenge the status quo, and to champion initiatives that can fundamentally alter our world. So let us unite in this endeavor, and let's try for the planet we share and the future we are trying to build, try to build a legacy that transcends us all. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Omar, I'm going to ask you a question on slide money.
Please.
And that question is related to G10, which are reducing inequality within and among countries.
Yeah.
So reducing remittance by 3%, which slide money is playing an important role in helping address. What are the biggest barriers to scaling your produce and reaching a greater number of the unbanked and underserved community?
That's a great question, actually, when you look at you know, this kind of initiatives. Maybe it's the same, you know, for other environmentally friendly projects, because we are not primarily environmentally friendly. That's not our first scope, but our first scope is actually to allow social justice to happen through, you know, by lowering actually the cost of remittances, so of money transfers internationally. And the biggest barrier is in the financial industry to advance, for the financial industry to advance, is regulation. It's actually compliance. Yeah. It's, you know, when you look at it, it's counterintuitive. You can think that regulation should be, or the government should be giving incentives for people to create alternatives. But unfortunately, regulation does not work that way. Regulation works with lobbies, and lobbies are actually led by big companies. And big companies, you know, one of the biggest sectors in the world is financial lobby, led by banks. And so today we are seeing a shift because some banks are getting very smart on this, and they know they are huge. They know they cannot move. They don't have the agility of startups. So instead of becoming, you know, stopping startups from evolving, they would actually become a catalyst for them and stay as an infrastructure. So this is the kind of shift we're seeing in Europe, for example, through regulation like the SP2. But in Africa, we are still a bit far away, and this comes mainly from the heterogeneity, of the market, because each country has its own regulation.
Okay, thank you very much. So our last keynote speaker is Mr. Nabil Felah. So Nabil is going to make an effort to speak to you in English. Of course, he has lived in France most of his time and feels more comfortable speaking French, but I told him to speak English, so you have to bear a bit with him. So Nabil, can you introduce yourself briefly, please?
Thank you very much, Najib. نساء ورجال تونس, السلام عليكم. Très fier d'être devant vous. Donc, I will start. موريتانيا. أهلا بشعب موريتانيا الكل. أهلا وسهلا. So I will start with an introduction, brief introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, we gather at a time when the consequences of multiple climate crises are beginning to brutally impact the countries in our region. Ecological disasters are increasing, leaving countless victims in their wake. That has happened to the brotherly people of Kingdom of Morocco and Libya. What's happened there is not a mere chance. The technological innovations we transfer to our territories sometimes clearly instill fears regarding the destructive uses that may arise from them. All these challenges, if we are to address them collectively, demand more trust, more regional cooperation, and above all, more solidarity. It is therefore imperative that we invest in regional effort to enhance trust and solidarity among our states in our respective regions. So it's urgent, really, to act and to act with a real impact. That's why my presentation is called Advancing Sustainable Development Goals through Cross-Regional Collaboration. The need of that regional collaboration become today very urgent. So the outlines are the SDGs related to global change. I will follow after I've sharing my personal practical experience in Djibouti and in Egypt. And we will talk after with the cross-regional collaboration in advanced SDGs, and I will finish by a conclusion. First of all, we have out of the 17 SDGs, there is, as Monaem said, and as my friend Omar said, really, we lost the presentation, please. What's happened to my presentation?
Back.
There is 9 relevant SDGs to combat the climate change. I want to say what are all these SDGs, because my friends asked about us a few minutes ago. So I'll continue by telling you that this presentation draw upon my learning experience in Djibouti and Egypt, and I will focus especially in SDG number 6 about water and SDGs number 11 about the sustainable cities and communities. So my objective with this is to underscore the imperative of regional collaboration, the necessity of the regional collaboration, and the approach how we can make it real. So let's talk a little bit about the SDGs number 6. It's aimed to ensure availability and sustainable management in water and sustainability. So if a big part of MENA region countries work on that, and they consider that SDGs number 6 is very important, let's imagine some collaborative projects they could undertake. So first proposal that I have is the capacity. If all that countries work together, we can perhaps have a capacity of building and knowledge exchange. How? It's by sharing best practices, technology, and expertise. This is the first proposal. Second one, perhaps we can also make research and development initiatives. So how it's, for example, having a pool resources for joint research and development projects, focusing in innovative ideas and technologies. The third is the regional water sharing and management. This is very important to collaborate on agreement for water transportation project across borders. And the fourth one is the cross-border sanitation improvement. Here, in this fourth one, this could involve the development of shared sanitation infrastructure to really achieve the goal. But for the fifth one, when we talk about public awareness campaign, we are here in the across the region to educate communities about the importance of water conservation. And I have two really examples to give you, and I will focus on the second one. So I will take my glass here, and please, if the camera could follow me, sorry. And I'm going to show you this magnificent machine that transforms the air on water. So you can pull here the water, and I'm sure that you did it a few minutes ago. And this machine was created by Tunisian guy who named it Ihab. Ihab, after leaving the room, he gives me some of his business card. I put here for you, please take this and imagine that this machine can really change the world, because just with the air, we can probably save perhaps our world. So I start by saving myself. Let's move now to the sixth proposal I'm thinking about is the policy harmonization. We can work together in the region on a project that can align policies, regulations, and standards. I feel myself better after drinking this water, really. So the other proposal is emergency response and disaster management. You know what? This is very important. Disaster management. We talk about disaster management. I think you mean what I'm saying. Omar. And develop joint strategies and plan to managing water-related emergency and natural disaster like food and everything else. So the ninth one is the promotion of sustainable agriculture practices. We talk about, I think tomorrow we'll talk about agriculture, and I invite you to follow this panel. It's very important. So we can collaborate on initiatives reducing water wastage in agriculture. And some of our colleagues today talk about that and give a real information about that. The last one is the public-private partnership with the region. I think I will not develop this, but because my friend Najib will have a little idea about that, and he will explain to you after. So this, all these ideas, these collaborative projects sound that SDG 6 can foster regional cooperation. And we can go further with that. We can really realize something very huge if the countries of MENA region work hand in hand. Let me now just go with the SDGs 11. The SDGs 11 focus on sustainable cities and communities. Following my experience in Egypt, the Egyptian government developed the Cairo 2050, this in their vision. And in the MENA region, this goal is particularly crucial due to several reasons. The first reason is the rapid urbanization in our countries. The second one, I will go rapidly to arrive at the time. Second one is the infrastructure development. The third is the environmental challenges. We talk also about the inclusivity and equity. This is very important. Crises and conflicts affected our areas, and the preservation of cultural heritage. So there is many other reasons, but in conclusion, I want to say that my intervention underscores the importance of international collaboration to achieve sustainable development goals, and I hope to inspire greater cooperation among countries in the MENA region. You know all, what does it mean? You said 2%. 2% can save the world. Can save the world, and 2% of money. Zakat. Zakat. I will say after Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, لا تفسدوا في الأرض. Et donc, Surah Al-Baqarah, الآية 11. This is very important because our religion, our culture, can also save the world. I will finish after this slide to conclude that Jacques Chirac in 2002 said, notre maison brûle et nous regardons ailleurs. Eh bien, aujourd'hui, notre maison continue à brûler. Omar. Et vous voyez ce que je veux dire aussi. Et nous continuons à regarder ailleurs. Donc, my name is Professor Nabil Felah. I'm a senior strategy advisor to governments. I have my office in Marseille, in France, which is called the Sens Critic Strategic Circle. And 2 years ago, I found the Diwan Group in Dubai. And I'm the former president of TTU, and now a member on the board. And I have the honor to collaborate with Synergie Zaafrani, who helped me to prepare this presentation to today. Synergie Zaafrani is really, tout le monde le connaît, il n'y a pas besoin, mais je vais quand même le dire, International Senior Executive Advisor, TTU Chairman and President, former Chairman and Managing Director of Shell Abu Dhabi, former Secretary General and CEO of Dubai Supreme Court Council of Energy. Aujourd'hui, Synergie Zaafrani est le président de TTU. Je vais lui passer la parole parce que j'ai une question à laquelle je vais répondre, and after he will answer all your questions, because you know why? Because he's better than me in English.
No.
Thank you very much for.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Look, I'm going to ask a question, the last speaker, Nabil, and then let Rona open it for the floor, okay? And then you can ask any of the panelists. So what specific proposal do you suggest to the officials in the MENA region concerning the pressing necessity for regional cooperation in combating climate change? So you focused, of course, on one of the most important one is water after air, of course, but looking at it from the, combating the climate change, what would you propose to the MENA?
If I may, the response to this question is like a dream for me. Why? I will explain to you. I imagine that all countries of MENA region collaborate together and create like an organization, and this organization can focus on helping people to achieve a real project according to SDGs in combating the climate change. So I imagine that that countries can make money, little money, not just 1% of their perhaps budget, and I imagine too that I can be the guy who really lead this project, because I'm a real fighter, as people in TTU know me. Really, I love fighting, and we need really people who believe in that project. So this is perhaps today a dream, but if it become real, imagine what we can do if we create this organization that gather all Arab countries in our region to fight climate change, because I think that we have specificities for this region and different from Europe or for the United States in combating the climate change. It will be really worse in our region, and I hope this dream become real, even for me. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So I can, if there is question, I will take a couple of questions to any of the panelists that you would like. Yes, go ahead, please.
I have a question to Omar, but it's interesting to me. You said that a system based on debt generates. So it is somehow like stealing legally, yeah? Before the creation of money, humans used barter, so exchanging services and goods without the intersection of money, yeah? Do you see a possibility or a perspective to let's say, make this system reborn with new technology?
Yeah, thank you for your question, Shakri. Absolutely. So, actually, what happened is that money or currency, used to be. There's a difference between money and currency, by the way. Currency is what we know today. Money is actually has real value. Because before the 70s, there was what we call the gold standard. So basically, you could go to the central bank, you give them your money, and they would give you gold instead to any central bank. What happened in the 70s is that, well, the US was into debt because of the Vietnam War. Things didn't change at all, when you look at what happens today. And so they needed to pay their debts. And the UK wanted to get back their money, the France as well. But the US couldn't pay. So what they did is that, since they didn't have enough gold reserves, well, basically they cut the gold standard and they enforced the US dollar on everyone. It's whether you accept it or, you don't. We don't care. We have the superpower anyway. So everyone had to follow on this path. And so since then, well, all the central banks basically started following this path. No gold standard anymore. And money has become worthless because the central bank could print as much money as they want. We saw it during COVID. Trillions of dollars and of euros were actually, injected into the economy. This will come with a cost because, okay, everyone was happy. Everyone wanted to get, these subsidies. But today we will pay it with inflation. And we are actually already paying it with inflation. So is there an alternative system? Well, actually, it exists already. It's called cryptocurrencies. It's called Bitcoin. It's called Ethereum. But please just look at real cryptocurrencies with limited supply, because what gives, again, the scarcity of anything or the value of anything is its scarcity. Why was gold for a long time a standard? It's because you cannot create it in an artificial way. It's limited. You have to mine it. And so, well, basically it's the same for crypto or for Bitcoin. This is why we call it the mining process. You have to actually show a proof of work to actually mine these Bitcoins and do it. Well, actually, I can argue that Bitcoin is actually very, very real, but we can discuss that later. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Omar. Any other question? Last one. Huh? Okay, go ahead. That's it. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Thank you. My question is to Monaem. First of all, 2 years ago, I was studying in the UK. And someone was making a presentation about sustainability, and he said, I know a sustainability champion. His name is Monaem Lellahom. He is Tunisian. That was a really proud moment for me. I was the only Tunisian in the room, so I was really proud. Thank you for that. So you do a lot of advocacy. How do you make this advocacy efforts as efficient, as much efficient as you can, and how can you hold your partners, your clients, the governments accountable to their commitments? Because in COP28, everyone is committing, even the governments. We are committing to that and that and that. But how to make them, like, to hold them accountable to those commitments? Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your intervention. It makes me so happy to know that people are mentioning me in the UK. It wasn't easy. I started my journey 18 years ago. And as I mentioned, 18 years ago, I was pitching sustainability and ESG in the region. It wasn't easy at all. One of the comments I've received from a CEO, why are you speaking Chinese to me? The second one was like, I knew an alien coming from a different planet. I remember I was pitching sustainability to a board of director, a chairman. And I said, when you implement sustainability, you have an exposure over your stakeholders. You know what did he say? Are you going to put cameras in the office to have exposure over the stakeholders? As random as that. So the journey was not easy at all. It was with a lot of bumps. We sweated. And I know, and I base my words, you know, we sweated to have the investment community listen to us. It wasn't easy at all. I know right now, and Jalila, she's part of my team, and she knows how we struggle until today, although the business case of sustainability and ESG is much more apparent than it used to be before, due to the jurisdictions, due to the policies that are being implemented in the GCC. So it wasn't easy. So what we do, we start from the top. And I've been doing the last 3 years non-stop, believe me, non-stop delivering boards presentations to board of directors and chairmen. But the business case of ESG and sustainability, and the only way that I could grab their attentions is to say that after 18 years as an expert in sustainability, I don't believe in sustainability. I believe in stability. I believe in stability because it's super important. Today, we are criticizing the energy sector and the oil and gas sector. Can we throw trillions of dollars of assets in the sea? If we do that, we create a global economic crisis and energy crisis that we cannot bear today. And this crisis, on top of wars that are happening in the world, will really accentuate and delay the upscale and delay the transition towards net zero. So you have to be very patient. You have to boost data as much as possible. You have to advocate. I was behind the advocacy for all the regulations in the GCC when it comes to ESG and sustainability. So the journey is not easy, but you have to keep pushing and be resilient as much as possible. But now today, it's like a wedding for us. Seriously, it's like a wedding for us. I was speaking at the Middle East Investor Relations Association conference 3 weeks ago. 60% of the agenda was about ESG and sustainability and climate change. Investor Relations conference. 60%. So you can understand the importance of finance and investment today into the transition. You've got to be resilient as much as possible, and you've got to be Tunisian as much as possible in your mind, because that's where that we are very resilient as Tunisians, and you have to play that identity in everything you do. 18 years ago, they called me the Tunisian boy that is 20 years old trying to make a difference in sustainability. Today, 18 years down the road, you can see what is going on.
Okay, I think first I would like to thank our panelists who have made a great contribution, but it's not the end. The next is the best of the whole day. It's about the future. It's learning and development. So let's thank all the panelists before closing. And I want to thank particularly all the panelists, Dr. Nihel, Mr. Omar, Mr. Nabil, and Mr. Okay. Mr. Monaem and Mr. Si Mohammed, yeah, you can take the word, and then I will close this part.
You did not thank Omar.
Huh?
You didn't think
Omar. No, that's right. Yeah.
He was doing that wrong.
That's the problem.
We'll do that now.
Thank you. We'll do it.
Merci Sinajib, et désolé de prendre la parole une autre fois. C'est juste sur un sujet, j'ai pas pu intervenir. quand la présentation a été faite, mais c'est juste par rapport au CBAM, au MSF. C'est que c'est un point extrêmement qui présente extrêmement d'enjeux pour la Tunisie. Et comme ça a été présenté, c'est un mécanisme à la fois